It's Motorhead right here on your Classic Metal Show with No Voices in the Sky. Lemmy's up there looking down on us, smiling.
Yeah.
Smiling on us. He's looking down and smiling.
Mm-hmm. And the chat room's looking on us and shitting on us for having Jasmine on.
Yeah, so what? Fuck them guys.
That's what I'm saying too. You saw what I wrote. I said she stays. I like her.
Yeah, so what?
I find her fun.
Yeah, she's just, I don't care.
Yeah. I find her fun.
Yeah. She's got a lot of experience. She brings shit to the table. What difference does it make? Just relax.
Z.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever.
Is this like a real radio station?
Yeah, is this like a real radio station? So funny.
No, it's not like a real radio station. That's what you fuckers get for 20 years of hanging on. Now the show goes to shit.
Yeah.
That's it. We're going to have Jasmine St. Clair boring you with your Z's.
Yeah, whatever.
I like Jasmine. She's welcome every week. One of these weeks, I'm going to talk her into doing a whole 6 hours with her.
See, look, Jaylee Anthony. See, I like Jasmine. She knows her metal.
Don't you think we should do that? One of these weeks, we have her just in for 6 hours.
Yeah, 6 hours, pal.
Whenever she's in Chicago.
Right.
Or she's in Chicago, she comes to the studio.
Sure.
That'll be fun.
She can come hang out.
Yeah.
Whatever. Well,
but if she comes and hangs out at the Neeley Palace, I guess I won't be invited.
Nah, dude, come on. Come on, I got no agenda.
I know, I'm kidding.
Well, someone who is a partner with Jasmine and somebody who's been a long-term friend of the Classic Metal Show of You and Me Both is our good friend Bob Nalbandian. What's going on, Bob?
Longtime friend of You and Me Both. Fuck you guys. You guys are my enemies.
We are? How are we your enemy?
Do you want me to tell you why you're my enemy?
Yes, I do. I want to know how we've offended the great Bob Nalbandian, director of great films and host of great TV shows.
You guys are fucking with my life.
Really?
Why?
And my career and everything else. You want me to tell you why?
Yes.
So, Chris probably knows, being an IT guy, how the SEOs work or whatever on, when you Google somebody's name, certain things come up first, like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. Yeah. No matter how many views or whatever, these things will come up. So, this was a couple weeks ago. I'm talking to a relative of mine, his wife, and she happens to Google my name. Wants to see the stuff I've done. She's interested. She's looking, wow, okay, cool. He's done, Inside Metal DVD, interview with Lars and blah, 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 and, all these interviews and stuff. And then she's going down, and all of a sudden on the Google page, Bob Nalbandian likes 10-year-old boys. Goes down a little bit further, and Bob Nalbandian gets his first hand job.
That's so good.
So she's looking at this shit, and she calls me, and she goes, dude, what the fuck is this? I go, what? She goes, it says, there's a thing on here. I Googled your name, and it says that you're into 10-year-old boys. And I start laughing, and I tell her, oh, that's a joke. It's like the Classic Metal Show. And she's like, well, that's no joke. I mean, if you're going out for a job or anything, that's the first people they can look into. Or if, you're in any kind of trouble, the FBI, they're going to look into that and think you're some kind of a pedophile. You got to get that off.
That's an interesting choice of words, Bob. Get that off.
And then another guy, on a totally separate thing, he was looking me up, and he saw the hand job thing, and try explaining to somebody hand job if they haven't ever heard the CMS. It's impossible. So I tried, and unless you heard that episode with that loudness song, there's no way to explain it where they're going to understand. So I'm trying to explain, they started with this hail and kill, and then it went to fuck you, pal, and then, it was a joke because this loudness song, it sounded like they were saying hand job, but they weren't. And then all of a sudden, all the callers were calling in saying hand job and blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, okay, so, well, does that mean you didn't give a guy a hand job? So I'm like, no, it's a joke. Don't you understand? Well, what does it say? Bob Nalbandian gives his first hand job. I said, that was me yelling out hand job. It's just no way. There's no use explaining it. So anyway, fuck you, pals. You guys are now my enemies. You're fucking with my life. And I'm damn sure somebody looked it up and saw that, either a friend of mine or a chick I know looked up my name and saw Bob Nalbandian likes 10-year-old boys and went, what the fuck?
He likes 10-year-old boys and giving hand jobs.
So there you go, man. So fuck you guys. You guys are fucking with me.
Right.
Love it.
Look at us destroy.
Anyway, so what's going on the CMS tonight?
We're the destroyer of careers.
You are, and I'm sure I actually did have some job opportunities that never called me back. And I'm sure they Googled my name, because that's the first thing people do. And the funny thing is those views. Your YouTube is like your least important source, and I think they only have under 10 views on there, but it still pops up under the front page because it's YouTube.
Love it.
I don't know if I should laugh or I should be pissed or whatever. And I'm sure there's some women out there that I've met, and I've given them my business card, and that were super interested in talking to me and hanging out. And all of a sudden, I never hear from them again.
Sure.
And I'm wondering, what happened? And I'm damn sure they looked on Google and they saw that I was into 10-year-old boys and give hand jobs.
They're protecting their sons.
Yes. That's exactly it. Fucking Chris, man. I mean, he could for anything to title it. And the funny thing is, when I explain the 10-year-old boys, there's nothing to explain, because it was an episode where Neeley was saying he was going to be on my show, and you were pissed that you weren't invited on the show, and then you're like, Neely's like, oh, Bob's my friend. You're like, he's no friend. He likes 10-year-old boys. And that's what you title the fucking episode.
Good.
Anyway, gentlemen.
Well, Happy New Year, Bob. Happy New Year
to you too, guys.
Well, we just had your Inside Metal co-host on. I know you were upset about that too, because she usurped you ahead of your appearance on the show tonight.
Apparently, she takes priority now. I'm your old pal that you fuck with, and here your new friend Jasmine St. Clair takes priority.
Well, she just happened to be available at the time and jumped in.
Nah, I'm just fucking with you guys. How was that? Did Jasmine tell you some good Lemmy stories?
She did. She shared some Lemmy stories with us.
Very nice. And how is your audience reacting to Miss St. Clair?
They don't like her for some reason.
Still, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
They don't like her, but we do, and that's all that really matters.
Oh, there you go. That's all that matters.
So what's...
Yeah, I get a few people that are haters. I don't know, but with my show, she does a great job, and she knows her metal, and she's a fun co-host, and she's easy to work with. So hey,
when she's on, at least to me, she doesn't have that sucking feeling of suck that fucking every other chick on the radio has. She's actually informed, and and I'll be the first one to admit she's definitely very LA, and that's very different from me personally as a fucking hardcore Midwest guy. But I like that. I like that fucking dichotomy of the two, the clashing more or less of the two.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of her shtick. I mean, a lot of people say, and I think you said, some of your callers said, she sounds like some stuck-up LA bitch. And I think she kind of almost comes off that way purposely, and in kind of a this weird sense. But I think she's got a lot of she's from New York, and she's been on Howard Stern and all this, so she knows how to do radio, and she knows how to come off. It's like that. So yeah, it works for me. So fuck them. They don't like that.
Yeah, I agree, Bob. We like Jasmine. She can come on our show anytime as long as you don't mind.
There you go. You could use her anytime you want. And Chris, you could use her however you want.
That'll be the title of the next one. Bob says Chris can use Jasmine any way he wants.
Well, that'll be better. It'll be better than actually me giving hand jobs to 10-year-old boys. Jesus Christ. Now I have to explain to everyone about that. I could just see if I ever get in trouble with the law, that's going to be the heading of the paper.
Well, at least it's a conversation starter.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is these days, I mean, there's a whole other topic that we got into, but nobody, they'll read the headline, but they won't listen to the podcast.
Of course not.
They'll just read headlines. It's like the typical blabbermouth thing. People will read the headlines, and you'll have 100 people comment about whatever they're going to say, and of course they're going to say, the most controversial line in the thing or whatever that they know is going to get them the most hits. But no one has time to listen or read stuff anymore. They'll just read a headline and comment on that.
That's true.
And that's where it's coming to.
Well, that's what our media has boiled down to, is just the quick soundbite.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if anything's more than like 2 minutes long, even if it's 2 minutes long, they won't even listen. It's just like this, they got better things to do than to hear it. They'll comment on it, on just the headline, but they won't bother actually listening to the interview. But so be it.
Right.
What are you going to do? So I like 10-year-old boys, and I give hand jobs. I guess I just got to face the fact.
well, Bob,
there's nothing I could do about it. I can't explain it to anyone. I can't say, listen to the podcast. You'll see what it's about. Nope, I just got to admit to it.
Sure. Well, Bob, you do a 1 hour show with Inside Metal. How is that going? And can you gauge whether your audience is growing at all?
Yeah, it depends upon the episode, obviously, but, we get a pretty immediate reaction. I mean, I don't know about how many people watch it live, but we get a lot of views, and they're happy. They're saying we're one of the best shows, and they want to keep it going, and they're going to do a second tier of T Radio V of like their popular shows, and they want to add us on that. So, it seems to be doing all right. So, we just kind of keep plugging along, and, I'm just having fun with it. And, if it grows from here, then it does. If it doesn't, then it doesn't.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, Bob, speaking of Inside Metal, how is the documentaries going, and where are you at what phase, and in what documentary are you working on currently?
Well, believe it or not, we're going into an Inside San Francisco metal documentary, which we're going to be starting on at the NAMM show. And from what I understand, Mr. Neeley is going to be joining me in L.A. for the NAMM show.
I will be there. I will be flying in on Wednesday evening and heading out on Sunday. So I'll be there for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Very
cool. Well, we'll definitely do some heavy-duty partying, I'm sure, that weekend. But to answer your question about the DVDs, we've had the second one done and in the editor's hands for a few months now. And he's been taking his time. He's been bombarded with other stuff, but he's doing a real good job, great job. We're adding the music to it now, just the finishing touches. We're looking for a March release date, and this will be the second movie, which will also be a 2-volume set. So it'll be 2 DVDs, Volume 1 and Volume 2. It'll be called The LA Metal Scene Explodes, from 1982 to 1986, so it'll basically be a continuation of the first movie, Pioneers of LA Hard Rock and Metal.
Nice.
And we probably got twice as many artist interviews featured in this one, so some good stuff. I think a lot of the artists that many of you and many of your listeners will be very familiar with.
Sure. So with the San Francisco one, Bob, is that going to be more of the thrash? Is it going to be almost exclusively your Death Angels and Violence and?
Pretty much. Well, I neglected to say Carl and I, my partner Carl Alvarez, we actually got the third movie is going to be the Rise of LA thrash metal, and that one we've got pretty much done. Carl and I. So as soon as the editor finishes this one, boom, he's going right to this third one. So we did the first one, and then we kind of did the second and third together, Carl and I. We just pounded it out. And so as soon as Rico, our editor, is finished with this, and we get the release date for the LA Metal Scene Explodes, he's going to go right to do the editing for the Rise of LA Thrash Metal, which is fantastic. That's awesome. And while he's editing that, we're going to start on the San Francisco one. And it'll be, I want to keep it not exclusively thrash. I mean, it's always good to get the contrast of bands. So, even if we do get like a band like, Vane, Davey Vane, or Hans Noddy, we're going to, of course, have Y&T in there. And, in fact, I just was in the Bay Area a couple weeks ago, a buddy of mine's wedding, and Y&T's producers called me, and they interviewed me for their documentary. They're doing a documentary, so I was really honored to be a part of that, and that's going to be fantastic. And Sammy Hager, Michael Anthony, and Neely's best friend, Eddie Trunk, is narrating. So it's going to be a good one, man. I'm really looking forward to that. But so the San Francisco one, I definitely want to add a different stuff. Even on this LA Thrash one, I've got Stryper in this. They're obviously in the second one, but they're talking about how when they open up for Anthrax with Raven and Anthrax back in 83 or 84, I think it was, at the Country Club show that I was at, and they talked about doing a big exclusively thrash metal festival in the late 80s or mid 80s in Holland with like Testament and all these other bands, and everybody's throwing bottles at them. And so I love to get that contrast.
Sure.
Other bands, not just.
Have you already done the, you said Davey Vane. I wanted to go right to that. Have you already interviewed Davey or talked to Davey or not yet?
No, we haven't started out on any of the San Francisco bands yet. We're actually, the beginning of it is going to be at NAMM. Then I'm going to be staying up toward the Bay Area for a couple months.
Okay.
And doing the interviews up there. I got a great partner, Mark DeVito, who I don't know if you might know him, Chris. He does a lot of the artwork and stuff for Metallica and all the Bay Area bands, Testament. I mean, you name it. He knows them all. He did like the Captains of Crunch cover and all the different stuff. And so he knows all these guys personally. And my other very old school friend who I've known since 1981, who had a great fanzine called Metal Mania, Ron Quintana, who actually lives out in Grass Valley now. He's going to be working with me. So, for me, even though I was really into all the Bay Area bands, I was always an LA guy, lived in LA, so I wanted to partner up just to make it real legit with the people that lived that scene. And I don't think anyone in San Francisco lived the scene more than Ron Quintana and even Mark DeVito. He was working with these bands, Mark DeVito, since and he's seen all these old bands when he was a kid at the Stone and all the old thrash shows. So it's going to be great having both them involved, and they've got the contacts to all these cats. So we'll get Lost Rocket and all the bands. So it won't be just thrash, but that'll be pretty much the majority of it will be thrash bands. Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, Bob. I can't wait for that one just because I spent a few years out there. When I was in the military, I was at Fort Ord, and I used to go to either the Stone or the Omni, one or the other, every week. They're on each side of the bridge, and I used to go there all the time and see all those bands. And I'm really looking forward to that one, just because not that I was there for long. I was only there for 2 years, but I got to see all those bands. I saw, Guns N' Roses playing in clubs, in the warm-ups for the Use Your Illusion, and Metallica played at the Warfield as under some fake name. And, there's so many cool things. I saw Road Crew, Davey Vane's band with Steven Adler after, I'm sure you probably remember that band, And,
sure, I talked to Steven about that, yeah.
I mean,
dude, I would... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say there were so many bands there, that... And the I don't know, and it might be, I really don't know the LA scene that well, But in Frisco, at least I was there from 89 to 92, I guess, late 89 till 92. And it seemed like you could go to the clubs and hang out with the bands, even the big bands. I first met Zakk Wylde at the Omni, fucking sitting at the bar drinking, and you weren't supposed to approach them. It was kind of an unwritten rule that you left the rock stars alone. But I, of course, did. And, struck up a friendship with Zakk that still stands. So it was a cool scene, at least that I remember. And I got to think that developed, from the start of it when Metallica blew up and then everybody wanted to follow. No?
Sure. And that's going to be really, the kind of the main focus is when Metallica moved up to San Francisco from L.A. And that was really what got the whole thrash thing going. And, I was going to say, Chris, if you have a chance, I'd love to interview you for the documentary, going toward the latter end. And I was going to suggest to Neeley, since he's going to be down at NAMM and we're going to be interviewing all these artists, if Neeley wants to be filmed for this too, if he has anything interesting to say about the San Francisco scene. I know Neely's a big fan of Testament and stuff like that. I would love to get your views, and we could film you too while you're out here. And if Chris could get his ass down here, we could film him as well, or maybe work something out where you could film yourself, or
if I'm going to make my film debut, I'm sure I can make time for you, Bob.
Well, there you go. We especially since you lived in the Bay Area at the time and saw all these bands, that's kind of what we want to get. Not just the musicians, but also as you know, in these first ones, we had a lot of promoters and radio people and different stuff interviewed for this. So we definitely want to get that perspective as well. So if you've got something to say, absolutely. We
Dude, I'll do it. Sure, I'll set up my iPhone and film myself for you.
That's the least. That's the least you could do, Bob.
We actually did get some iPhone footage. I remember when Joe was filming Kelly Garney for the first movie. The battery ran out on the camera, so he just turned on his iPhone and filmed the rest. So when he talks about Randy Rhoads, you can see the different footage. It actually looks kind of cool because it looks like it's from a different camera. We added an effect that was actually from an iPhone.
Nice.
Yeah.
Those iPhones are pretty amazing when it comes to actually filming shit.
Absolutely.
I mean, as long as there's good audio, then yeah.
You can definitely get good audio. That part's easy. It's the video.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got an HD camera here, too, so we could make it work.
Yeah, we could do it, definitely. Well, I will definitely keep you posted about that. Like I said, we're going to start in at the NAMM show and go from there.
Excellent. Well, Bob, aside from all your doings and goings on, we lost an icon, a legend, somebody that just represented everything that we as metalheads aspire to be. Just, live your own way and follow your own path. Of course, Lemmy passed away last Monday. And, that's one of the reasons we wanted you here on the show, is because I'm sure you have at least one Lemmy tale to tell.
It's funny. I know Neeley, when you came out to visit at the Rainbow, and the first and only time we actually got together, we had dinner at the Rainbow, and of course Lemmy was there.
He was.
And to me and a lot of people in LA, I'm still always kind of in awe of Lemmy, but it came to the point where anytime you'd go to the Rainbow or go to Jumbo's Clown Room, a strip club, or even Cheetahs, that Crazy Girls, you would see him everywhere. So he was just like, talking about people that are approachable in San Francisco. I think Lemmy was the most approachable rock star in L.A. I mean, anyone could just go up to him and hang out and talk to him, and he was always there. So, it's funny because of that, I never really wanted to invade his privacy, because I know, obviously, when he's at the Rainbow, he's drinking and playing his favorite video games, and I see so many people run up to him, "Hey, Lemmy, yeah, fucking Lemmy, Ace of Spades, Java," and he's just, yeah, whatever, and everyone wants to come up and meet with him, and, I thought it was great when you came up and, you showed a lot of respect and you talked to his guy that was with him and, told him who you were, and you had a great question for him, because on the Classic Metal Show, people know at the end of every interview, you ask people, their favorite, how has Lemmy influenced your career? And they tell a great story, and you were talking to Lemmy about, putting a compilation of, I'm sure you've talked about this earlier today.
We did.
On the show, but yeah, I didn't have a chance to listen. But I thought that was great, and that was a great feed-in. And I could tell his face lit up, and he said, "Wow, that's great. I would love, to hear that." So that that was. But anyway, going back, I mean, I used to run into Lemmy since the early, I wouldn't say early '80s, probably the mid '80s. I would see him, and I would see him off and on backstage at concerts. A good friend of mine, Adam Parsons, used to co-manage Motorhead. With Todd. A few years back, he now handles Europe and Thin Lizzy or Black Star Riders, and so he hasn't been working with Motorhead for a while. But he used to always hook me up with passes, and I would be backstage, and I would always see Lemmy, and it's kind of like a hi, how you doing? And the one time I really got to hang out with him at the Rainbow and sit down at a table with him, is I had I was very close with the girls in Meldrum. Michelle Meldrum, who also passed away a few years back, and the singer at the time, Moa Homestead, who's a very good friend. In fact, she's going to call in. I'm going to do like a little Lemmy tribute, Jasmine and I, on Tuesday on the show, and have some people call in. And Moa was one of his closest friends during the time. Meldrum had toured many times with Motorhead, or at least quite a few times, and she used to hang out at his house all the time, and I knew her well when she wasn't hanging out at my house. When they were in L.A., she was over at Lemmy's, and, she told me a lot of great stories, and we had spent an hour or two, just Michelle, Moa, and Lemmy at a table, and just what people say. You look at Lemmy, and you think, because he's got that total drunk look about him. And he's got and I'm sure he is. He's on speed all the time. So his eyes are just kind of bulging, and you kind of think that he's kind of out of it. But when you talk to him, he is so intelligent and so sharp and so witty. And again, one of the greatest lyricists. I mean, the guy's his wit is just unbelievable. And I just remember having such a great conversation, and it was like just talking to a best friend, like you and I talking to each other, and he acted like he knew me really well, and apparently he recognized me from all the times I had seen him. I'll tell you one funny story. Like I said, I would run into him all the time, but I was looking for a picture of Lemmy and I don't even have a picture of us together, because I never have a camera, I never take pictures or anything, but I ran into him so many times. I was at the 25th anniversary. They did the big show at the Whiskey where Metallica opened up. I got invited to that, and I came down with Mike Piazza. I invited him. Mike Piazza was in L.A. at the time. He was still a Dodger, and he was a big metal fan, and we used to go to a lot of shows together. So I brought Mike down, and I guess the road manager for Motorhead was the biggest Piazza fan, and I told the guy, I said, "Hey, I'm here with Mike Piazza." So they gave us a red card treatment. We were in the dressing room with them and Metallica and and stuff. So that was great. But I just remember Lemmy, after somebody introduced me to him at the Rainbow, he goes, Bob? And Lemmy goes, "Yeah, this fucker's been following me around for the last 20 years." Or something to that extent, because I would see him all the time at all these shows. Never really just, "Hey, Lemmy, how you doing?" But never talked to him, because I always I was always kind of intimidated. It's like, this is Lemmy, so I never wanted to intrude. So I don't know if he thought I was kind of like this stuck-up asshole that never wanted to talk to him or whatever. But he and I was shocked that this guy knew me from like 20 years ago. Like that. The show, they did at the Whiskey, that was mid-'90s, and I had seen him before then. And the fact that he said, "This fucker's been following me around for the last 20 years. I just thought that was hilarious.
That is pretty funny.
That just goes to show you that he was well aware of at least who I was. And I really kind of kicked myself in the ass that I never really, apart from that one time I spent with Michelle and Moa, never really had a chance to sit down and talk with him. Although I had so many opportunities, seeing him at the Rainbow and all that, but I just never wanted to intrude. And I was just thinking about that the other day. It's like, man, he was one guy I really would have loved to have gotten to know better and to talk to more. And and let's face it, we all knew he was in bad health. And I got word a couple months ago from a friend of mine who was real close with him, and they said that Lemmy was ignoring all the doctor's orders, and he plans to we talked about this, Neeley, that he plans to go before the end of the year and to die on stage, which I think that was his biggest wish. And now that that's coming out, I think Mickey D I read something about him that he told Mickey D the same thing. I don't plan on living through the new year. And so it's not like it was a huge surprise, and we all knew the way Lemmy wanted to live his life, and he did what he loved, man, playing rock and roll and playing on stage, and that was the way he wanted to go, and he didn't want to slow down. He didn't want to. I think the funniest thing is when he was drinking Jack and Cokes, he switched to vodka and orange juice because it's healthier.
Right.
Just stuff like that, and he switched from 2 packs today to like a pack a week of cigarettes. But he's never going to give it up completely.
Sure.
And that was the way he lived his life. And it's sad. I mean, you think about and we've had conversation about this, about all these icons of rock and metal that are passing or will pass within the next few years, and you can't really prepare yourself to think and what's going to happen in the future. And Lemmy was one of the biggest hard rock metal icons, and he's gone now. It's crazy. It seems like it's even made a bigger impact, at least from what I've read and seen on Facebook and what all the posts and what I've read, all the stuff in Rolling Stone. It seems like it's even made a bigger impact than when Ronnie James Dio had passed away. And it just goes to show you how much Lemmy of a cultural icon Lemmy was. I mean, there's people that don't know any of his. They might just know Ace of Spades, but they know Lemmy. Right. And I think the reason why is he was an LA icon because he was everywhere. When I was DJing at a club, DJing at a Cheetah's strip club, he used to come in, there, and I would see him there, and he would always be playing the video games and talking to a girl way across the other side of the room, and I would always play something that I knew. I don't want to go ahead and play Motorhead; that's too obvious. But I would play like a song, "Built Hounds by Hades" by Tank, and who are like Motorhead's protege band that opened up for him in England many years, and he would kind of like look around, like after a while, and then I'd play like Girl School doing Bomber or something. And then he would look up to the DJ booth, and he would see me like, that's that fucker again, kind of, his look. And I just kind of like give a nod to him, but, I never really talked to him there. But like I said, I saw him so many times, and, he was a part of the LA establishment. He really was. And I think more so than any other, even the LA musicians, even more so than Slash or anyone, David Lee Roth or whatever. I mean, Lemmy was just everywhere. Never with, very rarely with bodyguards. He would be alone. When he would go to the strip clubs, a lot of times he would just have one of the strippers drive him home because he didn't drive. Right. So he would just, he was just like anyone else. He never looked at himself as a rock star, but to everyone else, he was this total icon.
Sure. Well, he lived the way that he represented himself. That's the thing. There was nothing phony about Lemmy.
Absolutely.
So that's what made the difference. And he's blue collar rock and roll, just an everyday man. Didn't put on airs. Wasn't a part of the rich sect at all. Although I'm sure he made a pretty good living as Motorhead. He was a simple guy and very relatable to the everyday blue collar kind of guy. And not only did he represent that, but he lived that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of your listeners saw the Lemmy movie, and that was his apartment. Was he was like a hoarder. It was just, he had a bunch of shit. It was a small apartment just up Sunset Boulevard, and he lived there for like 20 years. He could have afforded a mansion, and he made a lot of money. I mean, I know, like I said, his managers and stuff, and people people thought he was broke because of the way he lived. But I mean, just his World War II memorabilia is worth in the upwards of millions that he has. And he has some he's one of the biggest collectors of that kind of stuff. And, Motorhead merchandise, just that alone, is huge. And you got to remember, in Europe, as big as they are here, they're like, 10 times bigger out in Europe. And they always have been since the early 80s. So, he definitely had the money, but never showed it. He just loved to party and to hang out, and every night wanted to drink. And if he wasn't at the Rainbow, he'd be at a strip club or wherever, and that was his life. The true rock and roller, man. Since he was roading for Jimi Hendrix and the Who when he was 14 years old, he lived that lifestyle and never gave it up.
Sure.
Tell me, Bob, that there's not going to be somebody out there that has some kind of legal standing to Lemmy or Motorhead that's going to prostitute it the way that, like, Dio has been prostituted since he died.
Well, his son is, Lemmy got real close to his son last several years, and I'm sure he's going to, because I don't know any other family Lemmy really had. He never got married, and apparently, according to Lemmy, this is the only son he's got, so I'm sure he'll kind of take over the estate. Who knows? I know I got a friend of mine, in fact, the Stone Man, who was on our Inside Metal show. Mm-hmm. He's really good friends with, I can't remember his name, Lemmy's son. Is it Paul or... anyway, he produced their band, their last album, okay. And so I know he'll probably take over, and I hope not. I would assume he would give Lemmy the proper respect, but I'm sure there's a lot of recordings that Lemmy has done over the years, and that might pop up. But CD sales they don't sell anymore anyway. I mean, they could. I don't even think the last few Motorhead records sold a whole lot, as far as, physical units. So I don't know how much you could really capitalize on, but
it's one thing, and I'll be honest, I hate the way that it's gone with Dio. Oh, here's a random concert from 1986. That wasn't necessarily even a good tour or anything. It was just something that they had, so they released it. And being honest, there's too much live Motorhead stuff out there anyway. There's a ridiculous amount of live Motorhead stuff. So it would really be almost anti-Motorhead to have a bunch of bullshit put out there. It'd be cool if there's like songs that were not released or whatever. That would be okay.
I agree, yeah.
But anything outside of that, there's just no need for any more live Motorhead stuff. There's no need for a box set with Lemmy's fucking telephone answering machine or any kind of shit like that.
Right.
Sell the shirts, be happy. The shirts are going to sell for the next 50 years. It won't be long before you see Justin Bieber and Kanye West wearing them at the Grammys or something. But
they
haven't
already.
But leave the Motorhead legacy to be, what it is, because anything to hurt that will just be a crime.
Well, they've already oversaturated. I mean, Motorhead had been exploited so much because they were on like about 5 different labels. I remember when I was working with Roadrunner Records, back in the early 90s, I worked for Roadrunner, their LA office. I would go over to New York, and, they had they reissued a ton of Motorhead albums.
Right.
And they reissued it. They were on Several European labels reissued all their stuff, and then GWR came around, this label that came around, Bronze Records was one of their early labels. SPV did some stuff, and then WTG, which was a CBS affiliate. They were on so many different labels, and all these labels were reissuing albums and doing box sets, and there's so much Motorhead shit out there now that I don't see what else they could really put out unless there's a ton of stuff that Lemmy recorded and never released, which could be I've been seeing stuff on YouTube, other stuff, even pre-Hawkwind stuff. It's amazing that he was releasing stuff from 68, 69, which I didn't really know there was much out there on Lemmy before. I obviously was well aware of him with Hawkwind, but he really, really is, an icon. He has been recording, since the late '60s. So, yeah.
Well, in honor of Lemmy, Bob, I'm going to permanently position the CMS studio microphone in the Lemmy position.
Very cool. I thought you were going to say that you were going to paste a giant mole on your cheek.
Bob, I don't know if you, in fact, I know you didn't hear it, but one of the decisions we did make is that we are actually retiring the Lemmy question.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, wow. and there's a reason behind it, and Chris had a great point. I didn't even think of it myself, but now that Lemmy has passed away, we don't think we're going to get an honest answer now. It's just going to be a ask-sucking answers from now on. So if somebody was not influenced by Lemmy originally, they'll have a Lemmy answer and suck up.
Of course, yeah. That is a good point.
So Chris made the point that, maybe it's time to retire the Lemmy question because now we won't be getting real answers now.
Yeah, and I bet you anything there'll be some piece of shit radio show that's going to take over that question.
There might be. And then we'll sue them.
Who knows? But you know what would be good to speak about releasing something, which I think would be great, is what you said, Neeley, in the beginning, is to have all the Lemmy questions or answers from all the artists and put it compile them into one big, it would probably be like an hour recording.
Well, the thing is, Bob, is 10 years ago, I purchased the domain Lemmy Tales.
Right.
And I want to put them out. I don't want to release them all at once. I want to just sort of maybe put out 4 or 5 a month or something like that.
Right. That'll be cool.
Something like that. I don't know exactly how I want to approach it, but Chris and I kind of kicked this around, a while back. But now that Lemmy's gone and I've owned the LemmyTales.com, for a while, and now that we've got, well over 300 Lemmy answers, this will keep us going for a while.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea, actually.
So we'll see how that pans out, but eventually that will be released to the public under LemmyTales.com.
All right. Well, I'll definitely check that out.
Sure. Well, Bob, anything else going on with you in your world and Inside Metal and Lemmy and?
I have a question for Bob since he's out there first before you do. Something we talked about earlier on the show, Bob, but I'm sure you have a take on it. The final Motley Crue, they finally went away. Thoughts?
Yeah.
Thoughts? What are you hearing? What are you hearing?
I got offered a ticket and I didn't go. I really had no interest. My buddies showed me some clips of the show, and the show looked fantastic. I mean, they definitely went all out. They put on a great show. As they normally do. I give Motley credit for that. They never stiff the audience when it comes to putting on a great show. I think they did in the Generation Swine era. They kind of dumbed down their show quite a bit, but they went all out. And from the clips I heard, didn't sound nearly as bad as he had in the past. Right. Maybe they just did it just for the last 2 LA shows, but they've been carrying on about this. This is going to be our very last show. And once we're done, we're done. We're never coming back. Who knows? And to be honest, who really cares? Unless you're Tim James. I mean, they got so much fucking money now, and Nicky's got his own band, and I mean, it's obvious they all hate each other. I mean, Tommy Lee is in his own little world doing his fucking hip hop and fucking DJ music and whatever he's into, and so he'll end up playing at half-empty clubs in front of 30 people doing his fucking hip hop DJ shit. And I'm sure, as long as Mick is in good health and is able to play, I've always liked Mick Mars. I thought he was really, I mean, obviously.
Mick is doing a record and going out on tour with John Corabi.
That's awesome. Is that true?
That is dead true. They announced it last week.
Wow, I didn't even know about that. I think that's a great thing. And, John Corabi still has a fantastic voice and, did that one album with Crew. I think he's a real musician in the band. He's a real serious guy, and I think he'll keep going, and I think he's kind of fed up with dealing with the Crew guys. And Vince Neil could give a fuck. He's got, his bars and his strip clubs and everything else he does. So, as long as he could keep his name alive, no one really cares about his solo shit. But although I will give Vince credit, those solo records he did, what was it, back in the 90s that he did with Steve Stevens? And they were some pretty good fucking records.
Just one, but he only did one.
The one.
Oh, he did two.
Yeah,
he did two.
One of them was really good. I think the other one wasn't that good.
Was that Carved in Stone?
No, Carved in Stone was the shitty one. The first one was it's silver. What is that thing called? I have it.
Well, I have that too, but outside of that, what else did he do?
He did.
I don't. Oh, go ahead.
He did the first album that he did was that. What was that? With You're Invited but Your Friends Can't Come. Exposed.
Right.
With Sister of Pain, and that one kicks ass. The second one, Carved in Stone, was the one with Breaking the Gun. That was like, it sounded more like a Tommy Lee thing with all the scratching and whatnot, the records.
And he did a cover. He did a cover of Chicago 25 or 6 to 4,
which was awful.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I barely remember the second one, but the first one I was going back listening to some songs off that, and I go, "Fuck, this was actually pretty fucking good." And I love Steve Stevens. What a great player!
Yeah. And he also did in 2010. He did the covers album "Tattoos and Tequila."
That's right, and I think I saw him on that. No, he did a solo tour. It must have been like 2007. I saw him up in Northern California, and he did all Crew songs, and he had a great band with him. And again, his voice wasn't that great even back then, but the band kicked ass, and it was a great show.
They were called Slaughter.
It is. That's who it is. It's all of Slaughter except Mark Slaughter.
Oh, is that what it was? Oh,
yeah, it's Dana Strum and Blando and whoever that drummer was.
Zoltan Chaney.
Blaze or Bloss or
no, Bloss wasn't with him. He was doing the Blue Man Group.
No, it's Zoltan Chaney is the drummer.
Look at Neeley and Chris. They know all their 80s hair metal.
Yeah, we know all that shit, Bob. That's why we need to be on your documentary films, because we're the shit. We're the metal experts. Right. We're the metal experts.
You could talk about Dokken and the San Francisco metal.
Right.
Inside San Francisco metal, you could tell how Dokken influenced the thrash metal scene.
Exactly. My name is Mark, and my partner's name is John. We're the metal experts.
Hey, I'm digging the fact that you're getting all these young listeners hooked on the CMS.
I know, isn't that weird, Bob? That we're like popular with the kids.
You're corrupting the youth, as you said.
I mean, we had a bunch of young listeners the last live show of the year with Kendall. She's a DJ at her.
I heard that one. I finally got caught up, and I heard all the episodes.
She's a Dokken fan, and then there's May Kay. She's 16. She's a Dokken fan, and then you had
that Nazi kid that called. one of Neely's buddies, I take.
No, that's Chris's buddy. That's his adopted son.
That's my fourth son.
Jesus fucking what the fuck is this world coming to, man?
Well, it's the whites supremacists that are fueled by heavy metal and rock. You know, we don't like the niggers, we don't like the Jews, we don't like anybody.
All right, Bob Leather. I just downloaded the best of. I got it on my iPod. I'm going to listen to that. Probably tonight after I listen to this show live, but I can't wait for that, man.
Sure.
Can't wait.
Such good shit, Bob. I swear to God. I bet you're sorry you even hooked up with us at any point.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing to think. How many years has it been?
It's been at least about 8 years, maybe?
8 years, yeah. First time I really got into you, I think I told you, was the Best of show.
Like 2007?
It had the Killer Dwarfs on it. I just remember that you were just fucking with
Russ Dorff.
Yeah.
Russ Dorff. Yeah, that was it. And that was when because I had to listen to that whole Best of show to really get a gist of what you guys were about. Because, like I said before, if you're just randomly listening to the show, you won't get it until you really listen to it and understand, like no one's going to get hand job or anything like that unless you heard those episodes.
Sure.
So there's a lot of inside stuff. But after I heard that, then I got it. And then I would listen to certain stuff like the, which I still think is fucking brilliant. I see you reposted it a couple times. That Shadow Steel interview was the fucking best. Because I'm listening to that, I'm going, what this is stupid. Neely's asking the lamest, what is this? Because I never heard of, I heard of Shadow Steel, but never heard his interviews. And then I'm thinking to myself, these guys, they're too clever to do something this stupid. So I went back and heard some of Shadow Steel's interviews, and then I realized you were fucking mocking them. And thinking, how fucking brilliant is this? You're mocking them on an interview you're doing with him, and he has no idea you're mocking him. and that was brilliant. And you know what? I kind of felt bad for the guy, because he was actually pretty smart. He was saying some good stuff when you were talking to him about the music business and about politics and about where he sees everything going with reality. I mean, everything he said was sharp, and I agreed with him. But Neely just kept fucking with him, and it was a rare opportunity where Chris played the good guy, and Neely played the cocksucker. And it was genius. It was brilliant. But if I hadn't heard Shadow Steel, I would have never got that episode. I wouldn't I would have said, this is lame.
Yeah, we're like a Kevin Smith movie, Bob. If you didn't see Clerks, you wouldn't get Silent J and Silent Bob Strike Back.
That's right. You're almost as witty as Lemmy. Not quite, though.
Nobody will be as witty as Lemmy.
True.
All right, Bob. Well, we appreciate you, being a part of the CMS family.
Anytime, and I'm going to get the chance to hang out with not only Neely, but the infamous Taylor.
Yeah, that's right. She's
at the NAMM show.
Exactly.
So should be some fun times.
You have to get her kid passes.
Passes.
Yeah. You know what, Neely? They do have a certain height recommendation, like on Disneyland. You have to be a certain height.
46 inches high. You got to be at least 46 inches high to ride this ride.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, it should be a good time,
anyway,
Bob. I'm looking forward to it 3 weeks from now.
So is Toby. He's looking forward to meeting you finally.
Excellent. All right.
Yes. All right, guys, you have a good one, and thanks for having me on as usual.
All right, Bob. Well, I'm going to close out this segment with some Motorhead. I think this one would be appropriate. I think you'll probably agree. I thought I'd play some Cradle to the Grave.
Sounds good to me.
All right, Bob, I'm looking forward to hanging out with you in a few weeks.
Sounds great, man. Look forward to it as well.
All right, brother.
All right, Chris.
All right, Bob.
Take care, guys.
All right, here it is. It's Motorhead with Cradle to the Grave exclusively here
on your classic metal show.